Dividing Island exhibition is our last exhibition in a series that's been looking at the period 1912 to 1925, part of our Decade of Commemorations project, where we've partnered up with the Nerve Centre to deliver a number of exhibitions at the Tower Museum, as well as travelling exhibitions and a series of engagement programmes.
All my life I've had an interest in history, but it's mostly local history. Second World War, my granddad's uncle died in the Battle of the Somme in the Second World War, and whenever it come to the War of Independence, my grandfather was a member of the IRA.
Like me being a Bulgarian, I've lived here for the last 7 years. I enjoy looking at old maps because sometimes you find names that match names in Bulgarian. It's really interesting, but it's also comforting because you find these connections even though we come from completely different backgrounds and geographical areas. There is still a connection there.
What we do with the Nerve Centre is deliver a lot more work digitally. Especially in these COVID times, we've been able to transfer a lot of our plans and a lot of our programmes into digital and online learning.
So in here I've got grated raw potato.
Being on Zoom, it was amazing. It was you got lost. You tend to not think I'm sitting at home at the computer. You tend to end up as if you felt you were in the same room as them because we're all chatting through each other, although Paula had to butt on every now and again and just give us all a wee bit of time. But it wasn't really remote learning. You felt you were there and you were sharing experiences with people in real time.
Paula McIntyre showed the recipe for boxty, and then I added a bit of Bulgarian spin in there, adding a bit of feta cheese and a bit of spinach. I remember my granny would make like on a fire just something similar where she mixes like boiled potatoes and flour and feta cheese, and I think that brought me that connection that I'm always looking for.
There was other people giving their input into the history and things that I hadn't looked at before. So that gave me different small wee avenues to go down and explore them as well. It was other people's experiences through the Zoom meetings.
What I have found over the last few years, people can find their information about their interest online, just read something. Whereas whenever you bring in an object, a little bit more simple, everyday object in the conversation, you can just discuss it, you can talk about it, because they can't really Google it. They have to talk about it. They have to guess, and go into a further research.
What's important to the Tower Museum is being a safe place for people to learn and understand history. Derry in 1920 was a very turbulent place to be. What we're able to do in the Tower Museum is engage with people in a safe manner, involving lots of different peoples from lots of different sectors of the community to talk to us about their feelings of that period, the origins, how they felt things developed, how they think partition developed, and the legacy for those issues today.
My own personal family history wasn't really talked about. It was never really revealed. I found out that my granddad was a member of the IRA by accident just before my mother died. Then I was able to find the records for that. My granddad's uncle died in the Battle of Somme. I didn't know anything about that either, because I think things like that they were hidden. They were kept hidden within families, which is, they're open now. You can be more open about these things now, but it was things that were whispered in corners of houses that they weren't talked about openly.
I had the chance to go to the Tower Museum and see that map on the floor with the room divider in between, to represent that division. It further helped me understand the history of the conflict. Whenever I first moved into Derry 7 years ago, it was something that I heard about talking, but I never really explored, because in my mind, that was over with the Friday Agreement 15-20 years ago. It doesn't really matter anymore. People would have moved on, where it's not the case. So I am still trying to understand how that affects community, how that affects people, how that affects young people that I work with every day.
It was tough for us at the beginning. We'd planned a lot of stuff on site in the Tower Museum, and we've been closed for most of 2020, and we had to transfer a lot of our skills and planning online. So that was a real challenge, and I think with the expertise of the Nerve Centre, we were able to step up to that and engage a lot more people than we would have done If we'd had a conference maybe in the city, we might not be getting 200 and 300 people registering for that conference, which is what we're getting today for our events. The whole project, the Decade of Centenaries Project, in partnership with the Nev Centre, has been funded by Peace 4, and without their support, we couldn't deliver the amount of engagement events that we have.
Taking part of this programme has really helped me improve my understanding of the communities in Derry. I've lived here for 7 years. Some might think that it's long enough, but I don't think it's long enough to understand the conflict and how it affects people nowadays.
Sharing the history with other people from different backgrounds is just equally as important as looking at your own history. You get to see the history from the other person's perspective and how it's affected them. Sitting in the house all day, every single day in the lockdown, it's kind of boring. Boring wasn't the word, it's actually worse than that. I look forward to every week. It gives me something to keep me going every week, a reason to keep going every week.